All right, Thrive Nation, on today's show, we are interviewing an attorney by the name of Devin Miller. And James, he's going to share with us about how to file a patent, how to file a trademark, and how to file a copyright. James, why would we want to know these things?
Well, you want to protect your intellectual property. You want to protect your systems in case of a patent, the way that the product works in case of a patent, the name of the product in case of a trademark, and the copyright of a creative work. You want to protect it all so people can't steal it from you.
Now, quick question for you. Where did you go to college?
Undergrad, I graduated from the University of Virginia, Charlottesville.
Okay, so hopefully you won't be offended by what I say about NYU on today's show. Now, without any further ado, it's our interview with Devin Miller, the attorney, about how to protect your intellectual properties, how patents for products work, how trademarks for brands work, and how copyrights protect your creative content. All this and more on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download.
Get ready to enter the Thrive Time Show.
We started from the bottom, now we hit. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. We started from the bottom, now we hit. We started from the bottom, now we hit.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top. Teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of five, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the C&Z up on your radio. And now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we hit. We started from the bottom and we'll
Yes, 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 and yes, Thrive Nation, we are in the air everywhere, and on today's show, we're talking about how do patents and trademarks actually work? Again, how do patents and trademarks actually work? Devin Miller, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well. And yourself?
Brother, I'm fired up to talk to you about a subject that, frankly, very few people want to talk about, very few people care about, until
I can change that, and now a whole bunch of people want to hear about it.
What I have found is that nobody cares about patents or trademarks until they care about patents and trademarks. You know, it's like you're in a room and you say, how many of you guys want to talk about patents and trademarks? And everyone says, do you guys want to go watch The Voice? I think I want to go bowling. But then when you care about patents and trademarks, you sit there in your ignorance not knowing what to do. So you reach out to one attorney and two attorneys and you pay fees and you end up finding yourself in a really weird spot where you need an attorney now. You have no concept of where to turn to. And so before I start asking you questions about patents and trademarks, can you share with us a little bit about your background so the listeners out there know that you are not a crazy person?
Well, I can't guarantee I'm not a crazy person, but I can certainly share a little bit about my background. So I hope I'm not a crazy person. So background is starting back in education-wise. So I've got 4 degrees, which my wife would say is 3 too many. But I have an electrical engineering degree. I have a Chinese or Mandarin Chinese degree, a master's in business administration, and MBA, as well as a law degree. So kind of with all of that, I tend to kind of focus on 2 different things, which is one is I love startups, small businesses, and entrepreneurship. And I also have my own law firm, Miller IP Law. Prior to starting my own law firm, I worked for some of the biggest law firms out there, worked for clients like Intel, Amazon, Red Hat, Ford, and others, doing a lot of their intellectual property. And where I found is I love startups, both I love to be a part of them and found them, as well as help them protect their patents and trademarks. So that's a lot of where I've now shifted to doing Miller IP Law, where that's really the focus of the firm that we help those help startups and small businesses with patents and trademarks.
Okay, so we know you know what you're talking about, and I just want to make sure we can really trust you here. Where did you go to college, and what's your favorite old school jam?
All right, so college undergraduate was Brigham Young University out in Utah.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Or out in Provo, Utah. Graduate school where I did the JD MBA or law degree, and the MBA was out in Case Western Reserve in Cleveland, Ohio. So did those 2 different schools. Old school jam.
Old school jam. I mean, what was the song that was the boss when you were in high school, your senior year, or maybe college? I mean, what was the hit?
I was going to say something stupid like the chicken dance, and I don't think that's really an old school hit. I'll go with, I can't remember who it was by, but I get knocked down and I get up again. That seems
Chumbawamba?
There you go.
We interviewed Chumbawamba on the Thrive Time show, so you my friend, earn a mega point for that right there. Those are tough to get. Those are very valuable.
All
It's
right,
like
I'm
having
glad
a.
I at least got 1 point. So.
Okay, so now let's just kind of dive into this here. Patents. Why do I need a patent? Who needs a patent? Why do people need a patent?
So what I would do is I'll break it up and then I'll answer your question.
Sure.
The most helpful is there are a lot of people hear the term intellectual property, and then they say, I have no idea what that means. And so I'll break it up. Intellectual property typically includes three things: patents, trademarks, and copyrights. Patents are going to go towards invention. Something that you invent, it's a product, it's something that actually does something. Trademark goes towards brands, and that's, anything that's a brand, anything that's associated with the brand of a company, that's trademark. Copyrights go towards creative, so books, movies, podcasts, blogs, anything that's more of on the creative nature, that's under copyright. So with that, so that just kind of sets the playing field. As far as when do you need a patent, it's really if you invent something. So if you're looking to, I'm putting in a whole bunch of time, money, effort, or all of the above to create something new or different that's not typically out there. And then you're saying, hey, I'm putting in a lot of that effort and it's hard to capture a lot of that investment, right? Let's say I put in a whole lot of time and effort on something and I work really hard on it, blood, sweat, and tears, all of my side hustle. And then I'm saying, I've created something new and it's very easy to reverse engineer. Someone else, once they see it, says, oh, that's a great idea. I can make that too. And so it's easy to do it. Well, then you're saying, how do I protect it? How do I make sure that somebody doesn't just come along and do that? That's who or whatever stage of your company is at, that's really what a patent goes towards.
So again, there's patents, there's trademarks, and there's copyrights. Help us separate those three in our mind again. So what's a patent for, what's a trademark for, and what's a copyright for?
All right, so I'll give you 3 examples to help you kind of separate
Sure.
it. Let's say you created the next iPhone. It has a whole bunch of cool technology, great apps. It's a product, right? Or and it could be be software, could be electrical, could be mechanical, but you created something. It's an invention. It's a product, something you're gonna sell. That's really what a patent is going towards.
Okay.
Now, let's say you created the next Starbucks. So you created the next craze. You got a really great brand. It's not necessarily that the product is anything different. Coffee was out there before. Maybe Starbucks makes a little bit better or, makes a little bit different drink. But really, it's primarily on the brand. I provide great service. Everybody loves the brand. They feel it's something they want to, really get behind. Then you're going to want to protect that with a trademark. You're saying I built a brand around my company.
Quick question here. Are you familiar with the cat or the kind of coffee that comes from cat poop? Have you heard about this?
Only when I watched the movie was it Bucket List. That's the one I've heard it from.
We interviewed the founder of Double Shot Coffee, and he was explaining to me that there's a certain kind of coffee out there where somehow, and Devin, did you heard this show, didn't you? Did you hear the show?
Bits and pieces of it, yeah.
Are you familiar with this though? Have you heard about this?
I've heard. I said the only exposure I have to the using poop for when they poop out the meat is I watched the show Bucket List and they made reference to it.
I just want to throw it out there, folks. That's a real thing. I encourage you not to buy it, but people are calling it cat poop coffee Inc.com. And okay, sorry. So I just wanted, you were talking about a new hit coffee. I wanted to ask you your legal advice on that. Continue, sir. I'm sorry about that.
All right. So let's say whether it's a cat poop coffee or whatever the next product is, you're building a brand and you're saying, hey, this is something people are going to follow, they're going to love, it's going to be a brand. That's where your trademark comes in. You're saying, hey, I want so that once I build this brand, somebody doesn't knock it off. They don't start cloning it. They don't start making it so that somebody else thinks they're buying it from me where they're really buying it from someone else. You want to protect your brand. Or you're a Nike, or you're an Apple, or anything of the above. You have a brand that people are loyal. That's where a lot of the asset is. That's where you're going to protect. Copyright, let's say you write the next best movie. You do, what's one? Harry Potter #8 or whatever. I don't know which is the next best movie. And I don't know that I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, but whichever one it is, you make the next best movie and you're saying, we put in a ton of time and money and effort to make the movie, or you write the next great book or something of that nature. Then you're going to say, I'm putting in a whole lot of effort to make the movie, write the book, do the podcast, write the blogs, whatever. Then you're going to say, I want to protect that so somebody else doesn't copy that and then take all the money for it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Okay, so we got, again, I'm just trying to put these out there for the listeners to kind of break it down. We got patents, trademarks, copyrights. Those are the big 3, right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. And by the way, somebody out there says, I want to know more about this cat poop coffee. Now look, there's a Business Insider article here, and it blows my mind. I don't get it. The article is titled, "I tried a cup of the most expensive coffee in the world. Here's why it's a tourist trap you shouldn't buy into." Now, let me just read an excerpt of this. Ryan, do you like coffee?
I do. Yes, I like coffee a lot.
What do you think about this cat poop coffee?
It doesn't. Well, first, I'm not a cat guy. I'm a dog guy. But no.
Let me read it to you. It says, Kopi Luwak is a coffee made from coffee cherries that have been eaten, digested, and defecated by the Asian palm civet, a small mammal that looks like a cross between a cat and a raccoon. The beans are then cleaned and processed. In the West, Kopi Luwak has become known as cat poop coffee, with prices ranging between $35 and $100 a cup, or $100 to $600 a pound. The Kopi Luwak is widely considered to be the most expensive coffee in the world. Ryan, with that being said here, we have an attorney here who apparently knows a lot about patents, trademarks,
Yes, I do have a
and
question.
copyrights. However, he's very ignorant about cat poop coffee, so please stay in his wheelhouse. What questions do you have for him?
Yeah, so as far as a patent goes, so I'm a dog trainer. We own a dog training franchise, and our tool that we use is actually a remote training collar, and it's not a shock collar. It uses a mild muscle stem similar to like a medical grade TENS unit as a tension getter for the dog, and we use it in classical conditioning. So my question is, I've wanted to make my own for like 10 years, and it seems we've talked with different people before, but it seems like I'm going to have to almost make it through someone who's already manufacturing collars, but it'll be different from what they're doing. But I don't know how to protect that idea if someone else is making it.
So, yeah, breaking that down, so there's a couple different things in there. So if someone else makes it, but it's your invention, you would still own the patents to it. So let's say you filed on it today. Hey, there's a difference between someone that makes it versus someone who invents it.
Got
so
it.
If you're the inventor, I come up with the idea. I'm the one that says this is how we're
So
going
what
to
if I'm
make
building
it.
on half of what they do?
So if you're building it, typically if you're building on half of what, so you're co-inventors, right? You
Yes.
invent some of it, they invent some of it. Then what you're really going to want to do is have an assignment. Basically, when you hire them on to do the manufacturing or the prototyping, you're creating it, then you'll say, we have an agreement. Part of the agreement, we're going to pay you so much money to help develop it. And as part of that, because we're paying you money, we get the ownership to anything that you invent as related to our product. And so that's why you're going to want to protect that first, that they assign you those rights. And then once they assign you those rights, you file the patent on it and you own it.
Now, you, just
it.
so we're clear here, Devin, you've actually co-founded several startups yourself, including, I believe, a multi-million-dollar startup for wearable glucose monitoring. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I've done a couple different startups, one of which has started as a wearables for hydration monitoring, since are pivoted and adjusted to go more for glucose. And so we do a lot of wearables for glucose monitoring, for being able to non-invasively use sensors so you don't have to do finger pricks and those type of things. And so I played on the inventor side of creating something and then turning around and wanting to make sure it's patented.
So if Ryan wanted to reach out to you to explore creating a product and then protecting it, again, I'm just making sure the listeners get these three ideas. Would he be looking for a patent, a trademark, or a copyright?
He would be really looking for what he described for a patent. So he's got an invention, it's a product, he's going to make the dog collar. Now let's say they're not always exclusive, right? So let's say you want to start the world's best dog collar, or, training muscle stimulus collar. Then you may say, we want to have a brand that everybody recognizes and we want to have a great product. So he would then reach out and say, I'd like to protect our brand that we're going to build and our patent. So products, anything, if it's just the collar, it's going to be on the patent side. If he's saying, hey, I'm going to do both at the same time, then he may reach out for both.
So patents are for products. And what are trademarks for again?
Trademarks are for brands. So if you have a name of a company, name of a product, tagline. So if you think of, let's give Nike as an example. They have a few different trademarks. The word Nike, trademarked is the name of their product. Nike swoosh is also trademarked because everybody recognizes it. Just do it. That's a tagline that they have. They've also trademarked it. Apple, same thing. So Apple, they have the name of the company, Apple. iPhone, or Apple Watch, and the reason they actually named it Apple Watch instead of iWatch, somebody else already owned the trademark for iWatch, so they had to use a different name. All of those are going to be those type of things. Logos, product names, taglines are going to be for your trademarks.
Now, what about copyrights? What are those for?
Copyrights are going to be for podcasts, movies, creative, anything that's creative. So if you're doing something that's really just on the creative side, you think of, when I'm making a sculpture, taking a picture, doing a movie, it's really all on the creative side, copyrights.
If people want to get a hold of you and they want to hire you, or say Ryan wants to just learn if you could help him, what does that cost?
Nothing up front. So we do a free strategy or free strategy session or free strategy meeting where we sit down and we want to make sure before you start spending money, you actually, whether you need our services or not, we give you that free analysis. They can go to freestrategymeeting.com, schedule a time. We sit down with them, go through for about a half an hour, answer their questions, and make sure they understand us.
So Ryan could go to freestrategymeeting.com. Is that correct?
Exactly.
He goes to freestrategymeeting.com. He goes there, talks to you, finds out if what he wants to do is even possible, because he sat down with an attorney to help franchise his business, Tip Top Canine, and that's doing very well. And so that the business is doing well, and now there's more and more of a need for his own line of dog collars. And again, just so we're clear, the strategy session is free. And then after that, do you quote people what it would cost moving forward?
So 95% of the time we work on flat fees, meaning it's going to cost you up front. So it includes our fees, governmental fees, everything. So really we can give you in that strategy session and say, hey, this is how much it's going to cost you. Here's your flat fee. And this is how you'll be able to go forward. So it makes it a lot more transparent and easy to understand on the cost.
My final question I have for you before we wrap up today's show is, sometimes people themselves become famous. So let's say that, Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan. He is the brand. The brand is him. That's what he is. Michael Jordan. His name.
Yep.
Or you think of like Nancy Pelosi, you might think of a jackass. So when you think about these certain people like Michael Jordan, you think about Michael Jordan, you think about excellent basketball. You think about success. That's his name. Nancy Pelosi, who knows, when you go to jackass.com, it might take you directly to Nancy Pelosi's Twitter feed or something. But there's certain people that are synonymous with certain things. Donald Trump would be another one of these people where his name, his face, his aura, his hair, the whole thing. Does somebody out there have to protect their own likeness? Does somebody out there have to buy their own domain? Or is it just sort of inferred that you are you, therefore you own the rights to you?
Generally, I'll give you two answers. One is it's for 95%. If you're not famous, very hard to get a trademark on your name, meaning most people, you can't stop others from using your name. My name is Devin Miller. Anybody else's name is Devin Miller. They can use their name in association with the company. Now, when you hit famous, it changes. So Michael Jordan, because everybody, when you hear the word Michael Jordan, they think of basketball player. They don't think of any other Michael Jordan except that. So once you hit a level of infamy or, of being famous, then you can go trademark your name. You can do it for the different ways you want to use your name, and you can protect it so other people can't use it.
And again, I asked this because I know, like, when someone says, James, like the other day when you said to me, you said, Clay, how are you? And I said, I'm doing great. And you go, Clay, you would not believe what just happened. And I said, what happened? You said, it's like a jackass went in the restroom. And I thought, Nancy Pelosi's in our restroom? I mean, it's just unbelievable how it's just certain people are synonymous with certain things. I tell you what, Devin, you are a great American and a guy with a lot of wisdom. And I want to give you the mic to share anything you want to share with the listeners out there from coast to coast. All of our listeners are freedom-loving Americans. They're big fans of being open for business, because we have that theory that if we're closed, we won't be open. Our businesses love freedom. They love the Constitution. They love looking at real facts. Our listeners are business owners. They're self-starters. They don't like government handouts. What would you like to say to our listeners out there?
First of all, I'm in complete agreement with everything, especially shutting down businesses. It's really hard to run a business if it's not open. You're not going to last very long. As far as what I would share, the biggest thing that we have or hold up that I find is that people are saying, I don't want to go in an attorney's office. I don't want to sit down because I know as soon as I go sit down with them, the meter's going to start ringing.
Oh yeah,
going.
That meter.
I'm going to hear the dollar signs chinging the whole time I'm there. So that's what I would say.
There it is.
There you go. So that's what the biggest concern is, and it makes people make a lot of bad decisions because they don't know if they need it, they don't want to spend the money to find out. So I would say the first thing, whether it's sitting down with us, asking us, or anybody else, is to go find someone that has a heart of a teacher, that's willing to talk with you and actually sit down with them, answer your questions. Make sure, because it's a lot easier to do it on the front end than trying to go fix it after you've already created other issues for yourself. So that would be my one piece of advice for all startups and small businesses.
And your website, your website address one more time is what?
So I'll give you the 3 ways to reach out to me. Miller IPL. So Miller, my last name, I is an intellectual, P is in property, L is in law.com. Free strategy meeting. If you just want to sit down, I'll answer any questions you have. Make sure you have a good strategy to protect your business. And if you want to reach out to me personally, any questions, whether it's IP related or not, just go to meetdevin.com.
My final question that I have is, you went to BYU, is this correct?
It is, yeah.
The people out there that watch this show know that although I am not Mormon, I tend to really want to hire Mormons. And when someone tells me they went to BYU, that's next level Mormon. And BYU is crazy affordable, but yet the quality of the graduates is next level. My understanding is for about $6,000 a year right now, somebody can go to BYU per year. Is that correct?
It is, yeah. So, and when I was in school, it was only $4,000 a year, so it was even better. So it's actually gone up with inflation. But yeah, when I was there, $4,000. They've raised it to $6,000.
How could it be?
A year of college.
How could it be that for $6,000 a year, BYU produces great students, and for like I don't know. Let me look this up real quick. This would be NYU. NYU. Okay, cost per year, tuition, NYU, cost of attendance of NYU. Currently, NYU is approximately, oh boy, this is it almost makes you nauseated. It costs about $76,000 to go to NYU, $53,000 for tuition and mandatory fees per year to go to NYU. How is it that NYU for $50,000 plus a year? All I have interviewed so far is complete jackasses. All the NYU, anybody from NYU so far that I've interviewed is a complete jackass. But yet everyone I've interviewed from BYU, they're great. How is it possible that your guys are producing such great quality students for such a limited budget? Many would think the bigger the budget, the better the result. What's going on with BYU?
If I could tell you the full end, I don't know. It's one where one of it is it's a private religious college or university, and they tend to have certain honor code that they require the students, right? So,
BYU.
For instance,
apply now.
What's that?
Apply now. If you're watching right now and you're going to be apply now.
Go to BYU. If you don't want it, but you can't drink alcohol. You can't have coffee. So unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to have your cat poop coffee.
Oh.
Honor code. So if you do, those ones would be exclusive. But really, they focus. The cool thing about BYU that I love is they focus on a mission of spreading knowledge and light. And so they look at, hey, we don't need to pay all the overhead. We don't have to do all that. They look for reducing of costs. And they look at, hey, we're going to make a quality education that's affordable for people. And so beyond that, honestly, I have no idea how they afford it or why NYU pays as much. But I think it's a great school. And they look at it as our mission is not to make as much profit as we can, but rather to spread light and knowledge to everywhere we can.
Now, folks, if you're watching this right now and you are offended about what I just said about NYU, I encourage you to unsubscribe. Just unsubscribe. Just stop watching, stop listening. Because it's two diametrically opposed worldviews. You can't be pro-socialist and pro-capitalist at the same time. So if you're watching this right now, it's okay. See if you can enroll in BYU. You might have to make a pledge not to drink alcohol. You might have to stay sober for the first time in a while. But if you're an NYU person, you watch this, you're offended, it's okay. It's okay. So just unsubscribe. But thank you, Devin, for being on today's show. You are a great American. I appreciate you so much. And thank you for being here.
Hey, it's been a pleasure to be on. It's been a great time, so thanks for having me.
Take care, brother. And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom!
Boom. Boom.